Phase 1. Phase 1, it was really the growth stage. So, for the most part, they were really just building stories, which, is essential. That's how the brand became what it is. Um, but yeah, let's hop into it. Um, Phase 1. There are 6 movies in Phase 1. Number 6, The Incredible Hulk. Only on this list because I had to include it because it's technically in Phase 1. Other than that, this movie would not have made, I don't think it would have made anybody's list. It just wasn't well put together. Ed Norton was the wrong choice for the Hulk to play Bruce Banner or anything. There wasn't really a villain anywhere in the movie, which kind of, the Hulk was kind of the villain, which made it a shitty movie. Liv Tyler, just they did a terrible job casting and creating this movie. It was a terrible thing. Reported budget for Incredible Hulk was between $135 and $150 million. Box office, it did $265. So, I mean, that's pretty much. I mean, you're talking about the Hulk, one of the most polarizing characters in, cinema history. Like, you could literally make a movie where he's just smashing everything, and it would probably sell a whole lot. Like, it's like Jurassic World but with superheroes. So yeah, that's Incredible Hulk. I'm not spending too much time on that one. Number 5, Captain America: The First Avenger. And this one wasn't. I'm not gonna say it was bad. It just wasn't great. Like, of all the MCU movies, this is the one I fall asleep on the most. Because I guess it's just like, I don't know, like it just doesn't grab attention like the other ones do. But I mean, it was a pretty good movie. They did fairly well in casting. Tommy Lee Jones, Hugo Weaving, who played Agent Smith in The Matrix. Obviously, a great choice to play your villain. But then you get, Haley Atwell, Sebastian Stan, even Derek Luke was in that movie. And Stanley Tucci actually played the Doctor, which surprised me later when I found out who Stanley Tucci was. And, they did a pretty good job. Budget between 140 and 215 mil, and it only brought in 370. Like I said, it was a growth stage. This was when they were, just playing around with stuff and testing and, trying to figure out what people were gonna be into and what they weren't gonna be into. But yeah, Red Skull. It was a pretty decent movie. It just didn't grab attention like it should have. All right. Number 4 is Iron Man 1. And I know some of you guys might not agree with me, but Iron Man 1, yeah, is definitely going to be the one. I mean, they did a really good job of casting. But as far as, we're getting to the great movies in Phase 1, and Iron Man, I can't put it in the great category. Iron Man 1, I mean, Jon Favreau, he directed it, but it just wasn't, it didn't grab like it was supposed to. But it did set everything off. So, I mean, that's probably why it gets the nod over Captain America. But it wasn't really, I mean, they use explosions in Marvel to offset shitty scripts. And I really don't think this was like the best story. It started off great, but once he got out of the cave, it was like there's really nothing else going on. You're fighting fucking Jeff Bridges, and it's just I don't know. I mean, Jeff Bridges didn't do a bad job as Obadiah or Jebed, whatever his name was. It was Obadiah, right? Yeah, Obadiah. But I don't know. It just it didn't hit me like that. Maybe it was Terrence Howard, cuz I didn't like that dynamic of him and it was like both of them were trying to dominate scenes, and I feel like they overlapped each other. Because Robert Downey Jr. and Terrence Howard do kind of have that same comedy delivery, but it's like he wasn't as good as Robert Downey in that, Robert Downey was the headliner. He was a star. I don't like Gwyneth Paltrow in like any of the the Iron Man movies. I think she did her best work in 3, but I don't like her in any of the movies. Now, Iron Man 1, set to a budget of $140 million reported. Box office took in $585, so $500 million. Like I said, I mean, it wasn't a terrible movie. It wasn't bad, but I mean, you get the high tech of Iron Man, and it was like really, really clunky, and I mean, I guess in hindsight, I'm ranking it that, but back then it was probably fucking great back in 2008. But yeah, that's number 4. Number 3 is Thor, who probably had the best opening movie of any of them, but that's because they overloaded this cast with talent. Like I think it's because Chris Hemsworth isn't that strong an actor, so they like just bombarded him with great talent around him. I mean, you got Natalie Portman, number 1, who is just phenomenal. But then you got Anthony Hopkins. Like, if you have Natalie Portman and Anthony Hopkins in the same movie and they don't even meet face to face, this is some like crazy shit. But yeah, and then you throw Hiddleston, for the Hiddlestonians, who really, I hadn't seen in anything except for Midnight in Paris before this, where he played F. Scott Fitzgerald, which is one of my favorite movies. But yeah, Hiddleston. But then you had Idris Elba too. So it's like it was just a magical freaking cast. And then didn't I think Renee Russo played the mom? Yeah, they just had, and then Stellan Skarsgård. Oh my God, they just threw everything at Chris Hemsworth. And I mean, they didn't disappoint with this one. It was just like, I mean, the story, but no movie in the phase 1 had great story at all. Like, none of them were like, the twists and turns surprised you, or did something like, no, it was cool. It was cool to watch. But yeah, this one surprisingly not being number 1 only because I feel like Chris Hemsworth is the one that took it down a couple notches. But he definitely had the best debut of the big 3. And like I said, you can disagree with me, but he had the best. Come on, Anthony Hopkins, Natalie Portman, Idris Elba, Stellan Skarsgård. Like, come on, bro. What are you gonna do? But yeah, Thor 1, set to a budget of 150 million reported, brought in 450 million. So, you know, he didn't do as good as Iron Man 1, but Iron Man 1 set everything off. What are you going to do? And it had Downey in it, man. It had Downey. 2, and we're down to the last 2. But number 2 for me is Avengers. And people will definitely disagree on this one. Avengers 1 was so full of cliches and just it was like literally it was just Hulk smash, like it was just slogans and cliche. Like I felt like it was just a big long commercial. Like, what are you doing? Like, actually write a script, guys. Don't just depend on, explosions and action and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's great, and they figured it out later, but it was just it to me it was disappointing. And I mean, the people who made it, taking $1.5 billion at the box office, obviously are gonna disagree with me, but looking back, I think you'll be able to see that they spent 220 million, and most of that had to just be on destruction, explosions, and stuff blown. I mean, it's like a Michael Bay movie. No, it's like a Michael Bay movie. There's no other qualifier or anything. It's it's just a Michael Bay movie. That's it. It's a Michael Bay movie with superheroes. Disagree? I don't. Tell me in the comments. I don't care. And Joss Whedon usually knows what's going on, but I don't know. Maybe he went too comic book with it, because he's a real comic book guy. So maybe he just went too comic book with it. But yeah. All right. Now we get into number 1. And for me, the best movie, the absolute best movie in phase 1 is Iron Man 2. I mean, it's the only one left. You had to know it was coming up. Iron Man 2, which will be on a future show titled Sequels That Are Better Than the Original. Yeah. Mickey Rourke killed the role as the villain. Okay? Killed it. I don't care about his accent. But he killed the villain part. Like, nobody. Yeah. I don't think anybody in phase 1 did a better job with the villain. Like, no. Nobody. Because technically, Hiddleston was the villain in 2 movies. And I've never believed him as a villain. His face is too soft. He has too soft a face to to be a realistic villain. Villains are rugged. They're not pretty. That's why they're villains. Because they're not pretty. Like, if they were pretty, they would be heroes, believe me. Because people love pretty people. If you're pretty, they'll love you. And you'll have no reason to go to the dark side. Hiddleston, he definitely fits into that profile. And he was the villain in Avengers and in Thor. Iron Man, you had Jeff Bridges, who, just because you shave his head bald and give him a beard, he's not Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor didn't have a beard. Yeah, and Mickey Rourke definitely did better than Hugo Weaving. Not by much, but he definitely did better. But yeah, Iron Man 2, you're talking about they introduced Don Cheadle, who had way better chemistry with Downey Jr. They introduced ScarJo as Black Widow, and the tight bodysuit, Favreau directed again, but this time they got Justin Theroux to do the screenplay. Yeah, and budget set between 170 and 200 mil. So I think, other than Avengers and what's the other one? There's one more. Other than Avengers, and I think, yeah, and Captain America, which is crazy. Other than Avengers and Captain America, this one had the highest budget, but it brought in 624 mil, so a little over half a bill. And it was just better. It also had Sam Rockwell. He did okay. I mean, he was kind of bitchy, but he was all right. Mickey Rourke really carried the movie. It was the fact that they just threw so much new at you. Like, it was like new War Machine, Don Cheadle, new hero, Natalia Romanoff, and then it was just like Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke, he did phenomenal. But yeah, that's phase one pretty much.